Hello good people and welcome back to Level Up Your Tactics. The study of tactics and tactical calculation, along with openings, has been one of the many fan favorites of chess improvers worldwide, because you need a keen sense of pattern recognition so you can find checkmate that's staring at you, or so you don't fall for a simple fork. Today we're going to look at the idea of creating a checkmate threat by removing or removal of a defender. Let's boost that ELO. Let's get it!
Round one, fight!
So we're not going to approach this study like a puzzle rush. We'll look at the nuances of this old game from beginning to the end. Now, this prehistoric game took place in Varna, Bulgaria, between Vladimir Hort and Robert Byrne. Yes, that's the brother of the infamous Donald Byrne, where young Bobby Fischer performed his Queen Sack Immortal. Oh, before I begin, before I forget, if you do like this content, find it tolerable, and there's some value in it, please like and sub. You have my gratitude. Let's get started. Alright, so white starts with c4, the English opening, g6 fianchetto. I'm just going through the openings. I'm not here to talk about opening repertoire, but just there's strategic ideas before a tactic happens. There's also blunders before a tactic happens, and let's see how this unfolds. Knight to c3, bishop to g7. d4 taking the center, knight to f6, e4. Now we've transitioned into a King's Indian defense where black fianchetto's fast, probably puts a pawn here, and you have the pawn phalanx in the middle by white. d6, preventing more space to be taken, and here white plays the same-ish variation. This whole setup where there's pawn pushes and potentially castling, I'm drawing so many lines, is the idea of this structure. a6, bishop to e3, c6, queen to d2. You can kind of already tell that because white has invested a lot in developing the pieces on this side of the board, white will play queenside castle, black will likely play kingside castle, and there's going to be war. It's not going to be a positional grind, possibly. b5, and here a bishop to d3. You don't want to open this because your king will likely be on this side of the board. So you don't want to give piece activity and an open file to your opponent when there's a cannon aimed at your king's face. You don't want that. Bishop to d3, knight b to d7, and then knight g to e2. White now also has this idea of castling here. Notice how all his pawns are facing there, and you have Luft potentially in the 4th rank. Castle, king, h4. And with that idea, either the king wants to hang out in the middle, which is not advisable, or queenside castle is going to happen. And the plan is to open up the h file, toss kind of your pawn like a distraction, just to open that file, and then push on h6 with the double bishop and queen battery. e5 now played, h5 like I mentioned. And you might be thinking maybe takes here, takes bishop 2, but the thing is this square is defended by the black queen, so you can't just haphazardly sack. So white plays g4, which means mission accomplished. This has been opened, but this game is still equal. Black still has a lot of defending chances here if he plays this correctly. Mind you though, you have to be wary if you're black in this position that these pieces can come alive quickly now that you've opened the H file. So you have to play the next moves correctly. If white wants to attack, they have to be extremely accurate. If black wants to survive, you have to be extremely accurate. And black plays knight to f6, which is a bit of an inaccuracy. Why is that? Because in these kind of positions, you have to defend accurately, but also create counterplay. A more resilient play by black would have been after g4, knight to f4. Why is that? Because unlike black, white isn't established yet in terms of defense. Sure, he's achieved this, but it's now black's job to do a quick counterattack so he doesn't get attacked. So knight to f4 takes this is bearing down. So you have to capture this with the queen. Queen takes, and now b4. And it's super awkward because the dark squared bishop for white is removed. So what are you going to do about this idea? Are you going to go here, queen to h2? Your piece is being attacked. There is a flank idea from the fianchetto bishop, so it's just it's like a good counterpunch from Floyd Mayweather. You look like you're tossing all these combinations, and he hits you, and it disrupts all your rhythm. So knight to h6 works because white gets to keep the light squared bishop, and this is open. So a little tempo delay there. So now bishop to h6 takes and takes. And after b takes on g7, black must take this bishop. Otherwise, if you get overzealous thinking you're attacking the queen, because this is now open, this being the h file, after queen to h6, black is in a world of trouble. Absolutely. You try to take to queen, the line favors white, even though the king is just merrily hanging out in the middle of the board. This favors white severely. After the rook is threatened, you push. Idea, of course, is to get this diagonal, of course, right? Knight blocks h file, you simply sack. That's a strong move. After takes. And now, where in this position do any of black's pieces defend this checkmate? There isn't. After takes, takes, repeat the position. It's over. You have to sack your queen. So, that's not what happened. After bishop takes, king took. Now we have queen to h6. King moves back to h8, and now we have knight to d4. And this is the defining moment of the game, because I want you guys to have a look at the position, specifically on this side of the board. So many arrows, one giant rectangle. Without this knight, it's a checkmate threat, because queen to h7 simply checkmates. So the idea then is to remove what? The defense of the square. And which piece does that? It would be the knight on f6. So if you're playing black in this position, it's rough, but there is a defense. And it's not what black played. It's not knight to e5. That just ends the game. Absurdly. The idea, of course, was trying to defend this from being captured. So you play knight to e5, which is a blunder, tomato sauce, because now only this piece defends. Sorry, I had to rub my chin there. So knowing that this is a mate, if f6 doesn't exist, and that the other defender of f6 is now on e5, what is the winning move, guys? The answer in 3, 2, and 1. First of all, the answer is not g5, because there's a tempo hanging, and black can block it with knight to h5. So after takes and takes, white is now losing. See the fine line? You have to be so accurate and so correct in these forcing lines. The answer instead is knight takes on c6, clearing this super special square called d5. In this position, knight to d3, king to d2, and the opponent resigned. Why is that? Well, let's just have a look again. If here, knight takes, if knight takes, then you have knight to d5, brilliant move. If you take, of course, you get mated. Easy as that. And in the game, after king to d2, the queen is scrambling to get to the defense of the square. Because it's under attack, it can try queen to e8. But guess what happens? The second brilliant move. Again, knight to d5. By sacrificing the piece here, this square is accessible to remove this defender, and this other defender is all the way here. So if you take, again, it's a mate. Easy, of course. If knight 2, h5, and takes, and takes, and after a check there, check. And if you take, which you have to, it's a mate. If we do go back to this variation of sacrificing, and here, I know I'm repeating moves here, knight to d5, again, this position's so brittle. And after block takes, the queen is primed to take this knight on f6 because mate is unstoppable. And it looks like so simple, but that's what tactics are, you know? After trying to defend that, g takes, and you can't stop it. You're going to be down a queen. You have to take it. And there's ideas here, of course. The game's just done. The game is over. So quick recap, c4, g6, knight c3, bishop to g7, d4, knight to f6, e4. We've got a very king's gambit, king's Indian defense-ish. d6, the same-ish. You can tell by the theme of the game that white will castle likely on the queen side. Again, you don't take haphazardly. Pawns cannot move backwards, but more importantly, they dictate positions. If you take, this opens up this file. If you also take, potentially this opens up the file in front of your king. So keep attention. And now knight to e2. Push. Push again. He took. No ideas of a sack yet. But mission accomplished. Opens up. Better to have gone here. After takes, takes, this is brittle, so you have to take. And now after the push, white is stumped. The position's even. Where is the attack? Probably non-existent. So slightly questionable that black allowed it. And as black, you have to remember these kind of things, because you could be in the receiving end of an attack like this. And that defense also requires tactics. Bishop to h6, takes, ignores. Check first. You've now threatening the idea of checkmate. You capture with tempo, and your opponent blunders. A stronger defense would have been rook to g8. And after takes, where is the mate? There's no mate. White is on the attack, but there's no mate. That's the thing, right? But knight to e5. Sacrifice the knight. After check, attacking the queen. Sacrifice, or rather attack with the other knight. And the game's done. Takes, or rather blocks, takes, takes, takes. Or checks first. I don't know my own lecture. This is attacked. Knight 2. Over. And then going back to this blunderous event. After the sack, if you take, then you give up the other knight because the square is available now. So easily, if you take, you get barbecued. If you block, sacrifice, knight to f6, threatening mate. Take, that was defending that. Game over. Hope you guys enjoyed that, got something out of it. I know I did. I'll see you guys later. Double peace.